I'm not 100% human. Years ago, I broke my leg while hiking. They had to carry me down the mountain on a stretcher after I laid alone on the ground for a few hours. To stabilize the bones, they had to insert a titanium rod into my leg. It's been over 10 years now, and the metal is still in there, bolted to my skeleton. Sometimes it makes me think of a short film by Floris Kayik called Metallosis Maligna. This fictional documentary explains how, in time, everyone with metal implants began to experience painful growths as the metal started to spread across their body. Skin, bone, and muscle is slowly destroyed and replaced by metal that takes the mocking shape of a human being. Sometimes it makes me think of the Japanese film Tetsuo, the Iron Man, in which metal is treated like an infection. It slowly rots and twists the body, which breaks out in horrible rashes and growths that eventually burst into nightmarish tumors of metal. Sometimes, when my leg gets sore and a limp appears, I start to imagine the bolts and rods of metal that might be growing through my muscle, ready to burst out of my skin. Our bodies are being invaded. If it's not a synthetic joint, it's a synthetic tooth. If not that, then it's a replacement eye, or a heart, or it's a rod of metal to support our bones. If nothing else, then it's plastics, broken down into an invisible presence, so prevalent that not even rainwater is free of it anymore. Humanity has known of and feared this problem for a long time, and it's infected much of our art. In Tetsuo, the Iron Man, the spread of metal through the protagonist's body could be seen as his true monstrous self being slowly revealed. The conflict started with a hit and run, which left metal buried deep into the mind of the antagonist, the metal fetishist. The accident only happened because the protagonist was having sex while driving, and even after trying to dispose of the body, he and his wife were overcome by their morbid sexuality. As the conflict escalates, neither characters are changed. They are exposed for the mythanthropic creatures they have always been. In its sequel, Tetsuo 2 Body Hammer, medical science warps our protagonist. His father wanted to create a human weapon and experimented with his own children. But it isn't really these experiments that cause the protagonist to accidentally kill his own child. Emasculated by his failure to save his son from a kidnapping and having to be rescued by his wife, his father's corruption manifests as he gives into pride and toxic masculinity. These are some of the ways to show how technology, pollution, and industrialization can become invaders to our own bodies, almost as if the replacement of human mass by plastics and metals and ceramics twist our behavior into being apathetic and inhuman. Metallosis Maligna eventually shows us a man who is almost entirely metal. The growths of bolts and beams of metal form a mockery of the human shape.
Can you make a steady tone with your voice?
It begs the question, how does this feel for him? What does he think about? Does he think at all? In the original Terminator, the antagonist is slowly revealed to be an android in human disguise. As the film goes on, we see more and more of his human impersonation get stripped away, showing the metal beneath. If our bodies are being invaded, then it becomes hard to tell how human someone else really is. 1956's Invasion of the Body Snatchers plays with that era's fear of communist influence and the fear that anyone around you could be revealed to be an alien, a traitor. Flash forward to 2017's Get Out, and that sort of fear has been replaced with the fear that anyone around you, your family, your friends, your co-workers, can quickly be revealed to be your enemy, like apathetic machines in the guise of humans. Consider the zombie-like woman from the first Tetsuo, a harmless-looking woman turned suddenly violent and monstrous by an infestation of the artificial. These days, technology has given us all new fears about impersonations, as more and more of the internet becomes flooded with literal fake humans. Synthetic text, photos, voices, and videos are becoming more convincing and more readily available to everyone, making it harder and harder to tell who and what is real.
Fooled you. You're talking to a machine.
Anyone you see online could be an imposter, a Terminator with human flesh. It's hard not to believe the truth of the dead internet theory. This is the idea that the majority of interactions done online are entirely automated, that the internet is almost entirely run by bots. As large language models and generated images become more and more widespread, it's easy to think that the actual number of humans you might talk to online may be shrinking, simply outnumbered by the illusory. With the internet being so central to the lives of so many people, it's a disheartening thought that any face or profile or message you see could be some robot in disguise. If anyone could be an imposter, then the own self could be fake as well, like a sleeper agent waiting to be activated.
Now, whatever your name is, get ready for the big surprise. You are not you. You're me. No shit.
In Ex Machina, the main character helps test how well a robotic intelligence can mimic humanity. He seems so convinced that he becomes disillusioned to the idea of humanity itself. He questions his reality so much that he harms himself to see if there are actually robotic parts beneath his skin. In Tetsuo, the Human Bullet, the protagonist discovers he was born of a bio-android and has android DNA. Don't think too hard about it. Trauma and anger brings out the inhuman state from within, which he refers to as a demon.
I have a demon inside of me. Look at me. Look at what my body has become. My blood is polluted. I don't want to bring a baby into this world with my genetics.
It's hard not to see this in an anti-natalist light, especially in the greater context of generational trauma in the Tetsuo trilogy. If one honestly believes that each human generation has it worse off than the last, if one believes that each generation will just be filled with more and more plastic and inundated by a growing wave of fake humanity, and raised in a world slowly turning into a planet-sized garbage dump, then it might be hard to justify procreation at all.
It's not like the world is cripplingly short on resources.
Yeah, no, it's fine. You're bringing a new vessel for more microplastics into the world?
In the world of Eraserhead, one could interpret mutated child as a result of genetic mutation, or alteration of the humans. Their very seed could be as corrupted as the world around them. Perhaps whatever GMOs created their man-made food has ruined their own DNA. This logical extreme of science, producing new food for humans, is a constant source of anxiety and inspiration in science fiction. Dougal Dixon imagined the engineered food creature in his book Man After Man, a massive, grotesque mound of living fat and muscle, constantly harvested for food as it grows. His 5 million years hence prediction may come much sooner than he feared, as humanity continues to develop lab-grown meat. If you are what you eat, and what you eat is from an artificial version of life, then what are you?
Look, there's bound to be other ways they can get into our systems.
That's right. They could be getting into us through touch or through their fragrance.
We would never even notice it, not from the impurities that we have. I mean, we eat junk and we breathe junk. Now, they could start getting into our systems and screwing up our genes like DNA, recombining us, changing us.
In his video series, The Modular Body, Floris Kayak plays with this anxiety by imagining a world where swappable body parts can be constructed in labs. Such an idea has huge implications for society if it were to become commonplace. Would creatures built like this really count as alive? Would there be any moral excuse for literally creating a species for just the sake of food or servitude? Fallout 4 tried to address these questions with limited success. Much of its plot revolves around synthetic human beings, and it's sometimes asked, are they people? What rights do they have? The writers even leave in hints to allow the player character to question their own humanity. Much like in Ex Machina, these synthetic humans are often completely indistinguishable from natural humans. So, if you start to doubt other people, you can begin to doubt yourself.
We so easily accept what's presented to us as the truth, don't we?
These sort of anxieties are a staple of body horror. The basic fear of one's humanity being stripped away could date as far back as the original stories of werewolves, and is a large part of the original terror of zombies. The idea that loved ones, and even one's own self, can be replaced with something so hollow and savage. The world we live in is just as infected as our bodies. Trash infests the ocean, the sand, and the clouds themselves. In Eraserhead, there's no hint of the natural world. The characters live in a brutalist, industrial landscape where nothing grows. The father relents that this town was once green pastures. When Lynch called Eraserhead his most spiritual film and refused to elaborate, I think this is part of what he meant, that the world in which the characters reside is a dead one, which has lost its heart and soul. It's also other things. I'm not going to pretend like I understand Eraserhead. The original Tetsuo film also takes place entirely in an industrial hellscape, with no nature to be found. In Body Hammer, the protagonist and his family live in a sterile prison of a home, and dream of the pastoral life that had been robbed from them. Even the Bullet Man touches on this, using the same visuals as Eraserhead, a window facing an abysmal brick wall. The metal fetishist in Tetsuo promises a world of metal, which is one potential future of this infected world, where no nature remains, only landscapes of metal and plastic, where Earth looks more like a circuit board than an actual livable place. The promise of this potential future is fulfilled by the flash-forward scenes in the Terminator franchise, and in SpongeBob, of all things.
Everything is chrome in the future.
From the perspective of just one lifetime, this problem seems like it's been here forever. Concerns about pollution are older than any of us can remember. Oil companies have lied to us about plastics for ages, and now it's everywhere. The inhuman and unnatural is in our water, our food, and our blood. What most of these stories don't offer is a solution, or any glimmer of hope. Tetsuo 1 and 2 end with the promise of humanity's destruction, heralded as a positive thing, or perhaps simply inevitable. The entire Terminator franchise features mankind merely delaying its ruin, over and over, like it was some encroaching curse that could never truly be stopped. Eraserhead ends with, science fiction that focuses on themes like this is often very nihilistic, and doesn't leave a lot of room for hope. Hope isn't really in vogue anymore. Even Star Trek, once a bastion of an optimistic view of the future, has become mired in pessimism. It's not hard to see why. With every problem being so much bigger than the individual, and rooted in decisions made generations ago, it's difficult to feel hopeful or empowered. Maybe the Terminator films have the right idea, though. A ruined future may feel inevitable, but fate can always be delayed or changed. Any Armageddon can be cancelled if we stick together and keep fighting. We just have to be careful in choosing who our enemies are. We didn't choose for our bodies to be invaded. We didn't choose to become synthetic. I am not 100% human, and neither are you. All of us have plastic in our skin and metal in our bones.